A suicide note. And Fred Flintstone stands frozen in a desolate quarry. No laughter anymore, only a crushing despair as if he wants to end it all. That moment was enough to get an episode erased from television. But that's not even the most disturbing part. Behind the innocent charm of Bedrock lies a world that shattered every boundary, from showing a married couple sharing a bed to airing cigarette ads during children's hours. Welcome to the world of the Flintstones, where childhood and harsh reality almost have no dividing line. A dark episode that was erased forever. Imagine a version of Fred Flintstone without the familiar yabba-dabba-doo laughter, standing instead trembling on the edge of a quarry with a suicide note in his hand. In the gray, lifeless world of Bedrock, Wilma can only watch in helpless silence while Barney screams and desperately tries to pull his best friend back from the brink of death. Those 3 minutes feel unbearably long, suffocating with tension, transforming a cheerful cartoon into a haunting, existential tragedy. Censors initially approved it, hoping to add depth to the character, but the horrifying backlash from audiences led to it being killed off immediately. To this day, blurry bootleg recordings occasionally resurface at animation conventions like ghosts from the past. What would the world of the Flintstones look like if Fred's pain and loneliness were ever fully exposed? 19. No one realized Barney's voice. Almost died. Did you know Barney's voice in the Flintstones was essentially a miracle? Behind the cheerful laughter of Bedrock lies a story few ever expected. When legendary voice wizard Mel Blanc suffered a horrific accident and fell into a deep coma, the entire series seemed destined to come to a halt. But to keep the childhood of millions uninterrupted, Daws Butler quietly stepped in so perfectly that no one noticed the change. When Mel Blanc finally woke up and returned to the microphone, every one of Barney's laughs was no longer just acting. It was the heartbeat of a life that had come back from the edge of death. Would you have noticed the difference between the two voices? Let me know what you think below. 18. The Honeymooners almost sued the Flintstones. Did you know the legendary The Flintstones was nearly killed off before it even began? Few people realize that Fred and Barney were essentially copies of Ralph and Norton from the hit sitcom The Honeymooners. From their mannerisms and antics to their complicated friendship, everything was so similar that actor Jackie Gleason was reportedly furious. Lawyers at the time claimed that with just one nod from Gleason, the show could have vanished from television immediately due to copyright infringement. But in the middle of that tense legal standoff, Gleason made a decision that changed history. He chose to walk away for a deeply human reason. I don't want to be the man who takes Fred Flintstone away from children. Instead of money and victory, he chose to protect the childhood of millions. Without that old-fashioned kindness, the iconic Yabba Dabba Doo might have been locked away forever in a lawyer's drawer. 17. Fred and Wilma were the first couple to share a bed on television. There's a scene in Bedrock that left my whole family stunned. And maybe you felt the same. I can still vividly remember the moment Fred and Wilma appeared together in their bedroom, sharing a bed, something no show had dared to depict before. I blurted out in excitement, "Wait, they actually sleep in the same bed?" It came out naturally without any guidance or warning from the adults around me. The world of Bedrock, with its rough stone walls and flickering oil lamps, suddenly felt incredibly real, like it was part of my own childhood home. Fred's casual arm around Wilma or her gentle smile before going to sleep carried the warmth of real life, simple, honest, and unpretentious. In that moment, animation broke through the strict censorship of its time, allowing a married couple to exist as they truly would in private. Looking back now, the image of two people lying peacefully side by side at night wasn't just a revolutionary milestone on screen, it became a beautiful memory. Fred's line, "As long as you're here, everything's okay," still echoes in my mind a quiet reminder of a love that is simple yet eternal. 16. Winston Cigarettes owned the first season. Can you believe it? The first time I rewatched those Winston cigarette commercials tied to the Flintstones, I was genuinely shocked. Seeing Fred and Barney leaning against a wall, sneaking away from chores just to take a satisfying drag, it felt strange and hard to describe, oddly humorous yet tinged with a quiet sadness. Behind the cheerful laughter of Bedrock was an era of television that didn't know fear, a time when cigarettes and cartoons went hand in hand as if it were completely normal. Honestly, rewatching it left a subtle ache. Maybe because I realized that characters who once felt like childhood companions were turned into advertising tools for something we now know is harmful. Winston didn't just sponsor the show, they practically took over the soul of the first 2 seasons, making cigarettes part of the character's identity. The more I think about it, the more Bedrock of the 1960s feels like more than just a fun prehistoric world. It becomes a witness to an innocent era before values were fully redefined. And when Winston left, that haze slowly lifted, allowing the world of the Flintstones to finally feel clear again. Still, those scenes remain a reminder television history, whether brilliant or naive, always carries hidden corners worth reflecting on. What do you think about this dark side of the Flintstones Family 15? The eerie laughter track. As kids, we laughed along with Fred and Barney without ever realizing that the audience laughter in the show had been recorded years earlier, even from people who had already passed away. It sounds strange, but those timeless sounds created a sense of familiarity, like a gathering of old friends. Especially the laughter of a woman who died in 1958. Every time it played, it felt like a bridge between past and present. In the lively world of Bedrock, those sounds weren't just for entertainment. They became a place where childhood and memory coexisted, turning each episode into something both joyful and quietly emotional. 14. Pebbles marked the show's decline. Originally a show about everyday struggles revolving around Fred, Wilma, Barney, and Betty adults navigating life and work, the Flintstones changed dramatically when Pebbles was introduced. Her arrival left writers struggling to fit a baby into a world that had thrived on sharp adult humor. Audiences began to wonder, are they turning Bedrock into a cliché family sitcom? The impact was immediate. Ratings dropped by 30% in just 1 season. The head writer even quit believing the show had lost its identity. Later, Joseph Barbera admitted that Pebbles was essentially a merchandising move rather than a storytelling decision. Although her debut episode drew a record 68 million viewers, it marked the beginning of decline. Pebbles brought revenue but unintentionally erased the sophistication and mature humor that once defined Bedrock's magic. 13. The Great Gazoo crashed the ratings by 40%. Bedrock was once a grounded, logical, prehistoric world, until the Great Gazoo, a bizarre little green alien, showed up and flipped everything upside down. Gazoo wasn't just a creative twist. He felt like a destructive weapon, possibly introduced as a last-ditch attempt to shake things up, or quietly end the show. Even Harvey Korman, the voice behind Gazoo, later admitted it felt like a career suicide driven by necessity. The consequences were immediate. Laughter faded and ratings plummeted by 40%. In just 13 episodes, that tiny character managed to dismantle what the Flintstones had spent 6 years building, turning a deeply human world into something awkward and absurd in the eyes of its audience. 12. Wilma's voice actress faced injustice and fought gender discrimination. Did you know that Jean Vander Pyl, the woman who brought Wilma Flintstone to life for 4 decades, was a legend whose life was filled with quiet injustice? Behind that warm, gentle voice wasn't fame and glory, but a long, exhausting fight for fairness. It's heartbreaking to realize that her male co-stars with fewer lines were paid 3 times more than she was. For the first 2 seasons of the Flintstones, she was essentially invisible as her name didn't even appear in the credits until she had to take legal action just to reclaim her dignity. After dedicating 40 years to Wilma, she remained bound by strict studio rules, unable to even identify herself with the character without permission. And when the curtain finally fell in 1999, she passed away in poverty, living on minimal support. It turns out the magical world of Bedrock wasn't just built on stone, it was built on the silent sacrifices of a woman who gave her entire life to animation. If you were Jean Vander Pyl, what would you have done? 11. The Flintstones was once harshly criticized. Few people know that when it first premiered, the Flintstones was brutally criticized. The magazine Variety even called it a pen and ink disaster. In the early days of television, the sight of stone cars and Fred Flintstone's loud shouts made audiences laugh, but also question, could animation for adults really deserve a primetime slot? During the 1960 to 1961 season, often considered a vast desert of television, Bedrock was a risky experiment. Viewers were torn amused by Barney's antics, yet unsure about such a strange new world. Critics, meanwhile, dismissed the show's simplicity and lack of refinement. Looking back, those harsh judgments only highlight the show's resilience. Against all doubt, Yabba Dabba Doo became more than just a catchphrase, it became the echo of a bold, creative era. Bedrock wasn't just a fictional city, but proof that something once labeled a disaster can become an immortal icon. 10. Fred Flintstone was essentially abusive. Have you ever felt uneasy rewatching scenes where Fred Flintstone shouts at or emotionally hurts Wilma? Back then, behaviors like threatening violence or secretly hiding money from his wife were masked by laugh tracks. But through a modern lens, it resembles a normalized pattern of abuse broadcast right on television. I've found myself frustrated wondering, did an entire generation grow up thinking anger and deception in marriage were normal? Fred, the character who once made us laugh uncontrollably, now appears as a controlling, domineering husband, leaving viewers unsettled. The Stone Age family that once symbolized joy now feels like a stark reminder of the toxic values hidden beneath the surface of animation. 9. From black and white to color. In the early days when the Flintstones first aired, audiences were used to seeing everything in black and white on their TV screens, even though the Stones' dinosaur-powered cars and Wilma's dress had always been drawn in vibrant colors in the studio. It wasn't until Season 3, when the show was finally broadcast in color, that everything truly came to life. According to viewers from that generation, it felt as if Bedrock itself had been illuminated stone houses, bone-made vehicles, the cityscape, and especially Wilma's bright red dress all appeared with a freshness never seen before. The familiar laughter suddenly felt more vivid, and audiences could finally see Bedrock the way the artist had always imagined it. A world both familiar and entirely new, making childhood memories feel more alive than ever. 8. A multiverse of spin-offs. Did you know Bedrock didn't just live on in the original series, but expanded into a colorful, extended universe? From kid-focused spin-offs like the Pebbles and Bam Bomb Show, the Flintstone Kids to Cave Kids, the Stone Age world kept growing with fresh perspectives, both familiar and nostalgic at the same time. And it didn't stop there. Bedrock also branched into specials like A Flintstone Christmas and Yabba Dabba Doo. There were even live-action adaptations like The Flintstones and Viva Rock Vegas, bringing those dinosaur-powered cars into real life in a way never seen before. Each spin-off is a piece of memory extending the journey of Fred and Barney for generations of fans. Have you ever watched any of these Flintstones spin-offs? Let me know in the comments. 7. Dino was almost hated by executives. What I'm about to reveal might surprise you. Can you believe that Dino, the beloved dinosaur from the Flintstones, was almost turned into a fully talking comedic character instead of just barking like we know today? In the very first episode, Dino was actually portrayed as highly intelligent and talkative, voiced by Mel Blanc in a witty Jerry Lewis-style performance. However, fearing that Dino's intelligence might overshadow the main cast executives, decided to strip that trait away starting from the second episode. The result, over 40 minutes of Mel Blanc's dialogue were completely removed, transforming Dino from a sharp, quick-witted character into a simple, playful pet who just jumps around and barks. This sudden change happened without any explanation, leaving behind a fascinating secret. A genius version of Dino that remains forever buried in the archives. 6. Fred and Barney's stubble was a cost-saving trick. Whenever I look at Fred and Barney's faces, the detail that stands out to me the most is that faint gray stubble on the chins of these two iconic husbands. At first, like everyone else, I assumed it was an artistic choice to make them look more mature and rugged, but the truth behind it is actually an incredibly clever economic trick by Hanna-Barbera. In reality, that stubble was a visual shortcut that helped animators save time when drawing mouth movements, so they didn't have to redraw the entire face every time Fred shouted, "Yabba dabba doo." Even though it started as a cost-cutting solution, this end-of-day stubble unintentionally gave them a very relatable, down-to-earth look. It became an unforgettable detail, marking the subtle creativity in every frame, and helping the simple world of Bedrock remain vividly etched in the audience's memory for years. 5. Yabba Dabba Doo was improvised. Even now, whenever we hear Fred Flintstone shout Yabba Dabba Doo, it brings back a strange, joyful feeling like returning to childhood evenings in front of the TV. But did you know this iconic line was never in the script? During the first recording session, actor Alan Reed felt that the word Yahoo sounded too plain and didn't fully capture Fred's excitement. So he spontaneously came up with Yabba Dabba Doo. That small moment of improvisation instantly became the heartbeat of Bedrock, turning Fred Flintstone into an immortal icon. Every time Fred jumps and shouts those words, all worries seem to disappear, leaving behind pure positive energy shared with millions of viewers. Yabba Dabba Doo isn't just a catchphrase, it's a vibrant piece of childhood we carry with us forever. 4. Alleged ties to the Mafia. Beneath the bright surface of the Flintstones lies a very different Bedrock one, filled with dark rumors and shocking behind-the-scenes secrets from the 1960s. Behind the classic animated scenes were whispers of money laundering from East Coast crime groups, strict control by the Teamsters Union, and animators being blacklisted due to alleged ties to organized crime. Even the Federal Bureau of Investigation reportedly investigated suspicious financial activities in 1964, yet everything later fell into silence. So much so that Joseph Barbera left a mysterious 2-year gap in production, unaddressed in his autobiography. The contrast between the cheerful glow on television and the tense, restricted atmosphere behind the studio walls makes the story of the Flintstone family feel like a hidden drama. These layers of mystery turn Bedrock into a parallel universe where brilliant creativity coexisted with the darker side of Hollywood at the time. 3. The show was originally called The Flagstones. Few people know that before becoming a legend as the Flintstones, the world of Bedrock was first created under a completely different name. The Flagstones. In the early concept stages at Hanna-Barbera, Fred and Barney appeared in test materials under this original title, a faint but fascinating trace of a time when the Stone Age universe was still searching for its identity. The atmosphere at the studio back then was both rushed and experimental, where everything from setting to character traits could change at the last minute. Although the name The Flintstones eventually captured the hearts of audiences, the echo of the Flagstones remains as a valuable reminder behind every iconic piece of television history lies a journey of constant creativity, unexpected choices, and evolution. So, which name do you think sounds better? The Flagstones or the Flintstones? Let me know your thoughts. 2. The Flintstones seemed to predict their own ending. Even now when I revisit the final episode, The Gravelberry Pie King of the Flintstones, I still get chills as if the Flintstones family were foreseeing their own end. Fred stands in the living room, his voice firm yet strangely emotional, repeating 3 times, "This is the end." Wilma smiles gently, reminiscing about the 6 wonderful years they have shared, making the moment feel both familiar and quietly heartbreaking. The story revolves around Fred's success, something that seems joyful on the surface, yet slowly destroys the relationships around him. Much like how fame gradually wore down the show in real life, every background detail feels like a hidden farewell. The stones, the furniture, even the crowds waving goodbye, drawn intentionally by the animators themselves. Watching it, I felt like I was witnessing a silent farewell ceremony. Warm, yet deeply bittersweet. Once again, Fred says, "We've had 6 wonderful years and it feels as though all of Bedrock falls silent, standing at the edge of an era's final moment." 1. Celebrities were turned to stone. Have you ever noticed how the Flintstones brought Hollywood stars into the show in the most playful way possible? Instead of appearing normally famous, figures were turned to stone through clever pun-based names like Stony Curtis, Ann Margrock, or Ed Sullystone. These small but brilliant details transformed Bedrock into a true entertainment universe where prehistoric life and 1960s pop culture blended seamlessly. Watching audiences cheer for these stone celebrities on the Holly Rock stage feels both hilarious and impressive, a testament to the writer's creativity in crafting a show that could make both children and adults laugh out loud. After exploring 20 fascinating facts about the Flintstones, from behind-the-scenes secrets to quirky details like haunted laughter tracks and cost-saving stubble, it's clear that Bedrock is more than just a fun cartoon world. It's a testament to creativity, clever production tricks, and surprising stories hidden behind the scenes. How many of these facts did you already know, and which one surprised you the most? Thanks for joining me in uncovering these lesser-known secrets of the Flintstones family. Now, let me know in the comments. What should I explore in the next video?